Good afternoon. It is October 26th. This is the General Service Public Works Committee. Mr. Dan Gookin is here with me, Woody McEvers, and Kiki is in our dreams right at the moment. She's probably on her way. We're going to move ahead, and first thing up is authorization of impact fees to improve police department records and investigations facility. Chief Lee White, welcome.
Good afternoon. Hopefully this is pretty straightforward. What we have for you today is a request to use $49,700 in impact fees to make some efficiency and some workstation improvements to the police headquarters building. I'm going to break this down into two different parts, if you don't mind, just to help, just for ease of discussion. The first part is for our records division. Currently in our lobby, if someone wants to come and report a crime, which sometimes is a little sensitive, someone has to walk up to the glass and basically shout through the glass that they want to report a crime. That can be kind of problematic, especially when we're talking about sex crimes or children crimes or domestic violence or things of that nature. And so part of the efficiency improvement there would be to have a telephone intercom system where people can more discreetly report those crimes. The second part of that same aspect for the records division is to add 2 additional workspaces back to the records division, along with a remodel inside, so they can more appropriately social distance and have some barriers between each of the different workstations. So, when you're talking on the phone with someplace, prosecutor's office over here, and someone's doing a public records request over here, that's there isn't as much bleed over, and so it's a lot more efficient. The second part of this request is to renovate our existing waiting room for the detective division into a soft interview room. Our current interview rooms are basically made for people who are accused of crimes. They are a metal table and a metal chair in a sterile room. And so when you're trying to interview a child or a victim of domestic violence or something like that, it is really not conducive to getting a good solid interview and building a rapport with the victims or the witnesses or things of that nature. So this would transform our waiting room into a softer interview room for those purposes. We have adequate amount of funding in our impact fee account. We have $406,000 in there, so we're just asking to use $49,700 of that.
Any questions?
This is really clear cut. The only thing that I would say, and our administrator is not here, is that I will express a continuing concern for our impact fee rates, in that we haven't adjusted our impact fees in over a decade. And I think for projects like this, it's wonderful to spend impact fees on them. And I think there's probably other things that we could spend impact fees on. Getting that number up and increasing the rate would be something that I will bring up at the council meeting.
Perfect. I like the term softer. When you described everything as metal, I can imagine, So with that,
I will make a motion to authorize the use of impact fees to improve the police department records and investigation facilities in an amount not to exceed $49,700.
second.
I'll second. I
And
missed the first part, I apologize, and I just wanted to add that I did speak with Chief White about this investment into the building and what the future plans might be. In other words, is this something that was going to be torn down in the near future and that sort of thing? And he assured me that it was a good investment and the footprint of that building was going to stay there, so I was comfortable with the use of the improvement. I apologize for being late.
No, it's okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Got it. So we're going to put that on the agenda. You'll pitch it one more time, is that correct? Can we put that on the
Agenda.
Yeah, because it's impact fees, I think.
Yeah.
So you don't mind coming back and seeing us?
Be happy to.
Pictures?
Okay.
Thanks, Chief. Next up, item 2, vacation of some road right-of-way. Dennis Grant from Engineering, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. The applicant Rex Anderson with Fusion Architecture is requesting the vacation of right-of-way along the east side of Atlas Road, north of Celtice Way and south of I-90. It's this little hatched area right here. It's a 10-foot section. It is unknown when the requested right-of-way was originally dedicated to the city. The vacation of the requested right-of-way would not have any financial impact on the city and would add approximately 4,574 square feet to the county tax roll. It would be a benefit to the municipality as tax revenue, and eventual development of the portion of this site could lead to a more significant taxing entity. The purpose of this request is to vacate the unused portion of right-of-way along the east side of Atlas Road. It is to make it more useful for traffic circulation for a planned new gas station on the corner there. All utilities are existing and in place, and there is no foreseeable use for this additional right-of-way. The development review team was informed about this vacation. So the recommendation is, staff recommends to the council to proceed with the vacation process as outlined in Idaho Code 50-1306, and recommends the setting of a public hearing for the item on November 17th, 2020.
Any questions for Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're chair or president now?
What's that?
You're chairman of the committee. Not that, I don't know how to address you. Woody, thank you. Yeah, Dennis, you said you took down the picture.
Sorry.
So, it was really surprising looking at this in the staff report at how far over that right-of-way was. Where's the property line for that?
Property line, the existing property line is, if you can see the hand,
So it just goes right down there?
right straight down. And the trail is a little deceiving because this doesn't show the updated Southeast Way project, which has a trail right in this area. And then also, that trail that's showing is still there, except it's been moved slightly on the corner to get out of private property.
There's still a lot of dirt between the vacation and the trail, though. Is that
Yes,
city-owned?
it's very wide. I think the Parks Department wanted about 5 feet for future trees for that project in the right-of-way there. So we could have probably got a few more feet, maybe 15, but it was agreed on to do 10.
Oh, really? Is this, will the widening or the update of Atlas that we've been discussing for a while, will this affect down here as well? I apologize if you don't already know that.
I mean, I've been working on Atlas I've been here for 21 years, and I know we've been trying to work on Atlas for a long time. So, but I haven't heard the latest on the Atlas improvement, except for Chris Bosley mentioned it, but it's a little tight underneath the bridge here, the overpass for I-90, so I don't foresee us getting out any wider than we are. There's probably plenty of right-of-way there.
And I
That's
had
your question.
I had heard from the owner, I'd assume it's the owner still of that property, and they were considering, you said a gas station, but a grocery store kind of thing,
Probably like your
like Piggy's.
7-Eleven or whatever they call them.
Okay, and that was, and I actually think, I mean, I know that's not part of the request here, but I
No,
think that's really needed out there. I mean, there's really hardly any commercial services, so if he needs it, then yeah, let's do it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep, it would help, for sure.
Good.
Kiki, any questions?
I got nothing on that one. Thank you.
I'll look for a motion to,
I would make a motion to proceed with the vacation process as outlined in Idaho Code 50-1306 and set a public hearing for November 17th, 2020.
Second.
been moved and seconded. Other questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
We put that on the consent, please? All right, thanks, you guys. My favorite area, the water guys. Well, next to the sewer guys, my second favorite.
Oh, come
It's
on.
the same water, Woody.
Same,
Jeez, we're on the clean side. Come on.
right. Welcome, Terry Pickle. A little story about the water department.
Yep. Thank you, council members, for allowing me to come before you today. I'm going to give you a little education on what the water department does. And this is just kind of a brief synapse of what it is, even though it's 44 slides. So I got lots of pictures for you, Woody. So
Yes, thanks.
greetings from our city water department. We are 23 employees strong. We do employ up to about 6 part-time people in the summertime to do meter maintenance, fire hydrant maintenance, and help the crew with construction. The water department's goal is to provide tasty and healthful water at a reasonable price and consistent pressures and in sufficient quantities. Our major objectives are excellent customer service, which we do through proper training, respect to the public, and courteous operators. We're ultimately required to protect the public health. We do that through multiple programs, such as water quality examination and cross-connection control. We provide clean and safe drinking water from our aquifer, and we have been working hard to improve public water system reliability. 15 years ago when I came here, there was no backup power sources whatsoever on the water department or water facilities. Now we have 2 major wells in each zone, and all of the booster stations have backup power sources, and we're working on 3rd wells in each of the zone.
And I want to thank you for that, because during the power outage we had on Friday night, my kids were asking me if the water still worked.
Yep.
And I'm like, of course. So
Yes,
thank you.
You're welcome.
The water still works. I'm freezing, but the water works.
Exactly, yeah. So, originally, we drew water from the lake. We have our oldest water rights dates back to 1903. We originally had 32 CFS, or cubic feet per second, water rights on the lake. Through the adjudication process, we were able to retain only 13, but we could be utilize those for irrigation in the future if we could ever get some grant funding to put in some irrigation systems. Our first hand-dug well was constructed in 1955. That was the Locust well. The next well was 4th Street, and it was hand-dug in 1966. And then after that, they went to mechanical means. We switched over completely from the lake water to solely on the aquifer in 1977. So how do we get the water out of the ground? Of course, we drill wells into the aquifer. The new wells are tested for capacity, water quality, and water quantity. And once they're approved through DEQ, we design and construct a new pumping station. The wells pull the water from the source and push it into the distribution system. Ours is kind of a little bit different than some of the systems. Some push directly to storage. Ours pushes into the distribution. Excess goes to storage. Our booster stations lift water from one lower elevation to a higher elevation to serve some of the outlying areas around the city. All of our wells utilize vertical line shaft turbine pumps. So these have the pumps down in the ground with the motors on top. Makes it a little bit easier to work on. And typically ours are 250 to 600 horsepower. So pretty powerful pumps. They'll do up to about 4,000 gallons per minute, each one of them. We have booster stations that typically use centrifugal tile pumps. They're the best type to use to create pressure. And those usually are 20 to 50 horsepower. Treatment is not really needed. Our aquifer is so pristine that a lot of the areas around the city do not chlorinate. We do because of the size of our system. We have such a large system that the water's out there for a greater extended period of time. So we do use hypochlorite, and these are hypochlorite generators. We used to use gas, which is very, very dangerous. We switched these over, so we're creating a very weak bleach solution. Very safe to operate. What we utilize is we take table salt, basically, and run past electricity through it and break it apart. That creates our liquid chlorine. So, very efficient. We only produce what we need on a daily basis.
What happens to the sodium?
Huh?
What happens to the sodium?
It breaks down and goes back into a brine solution that we end up wasting.
Okay.
We utilize what's called a SCADA communication system to control all of our pumps remotely. SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. This is an example of one of the panels that we have at each well and at the water facility to control the entire system. We can access it remotely through laptops or through our computer screens. We use radio communications between the panels, between the wells. So we've got to have pretty much line of sight, so sometimes we have to install some towers. This is one that's at the old utility site, and it's about a 66-foot tall tower. We're moving it this week up to the other site. So we use storage facilities to store the excess water. This is the industrial standpipe being constructed, and I have a very unique video. They constructed the top of that tank inside the tank.
No.
And then they used a cushion of air to float it to the top and welded it in place. So I do have a video if anybody's ever interested in seeing that.
That is so cool.
Very unique. When they got it to the top, a guy stepped out on top of it and controlled the valve to have it float there while 7 guys welded it in place. Pretty gutsy move.
Yeah.
But here's a view from that tank looking kind of east over the beginnings of Hawk's Nest, and you can see the Prairie standpipe back in the distance there. We try to keep these tanks as invisible as possible, so we utilize paint schemes to make them blend as much as possible. So the industrial standpipe, is a seafoam green, so it kind of blends into the sky, and we've had people comment that they didn't even know the prairie stand pipe was there and lived right below it. So it does help, but it doesn't always work. You can see we get some tagging every once in a while. We've put up cameras to help reduce that, but they still are brave and go through the fences and do their damage. So we take
I
care
look
of
at
those.
that as cheap public art.
Yeah, right. That was the most politically correct one.
Oh, really?
That I could give you. Where does the water go? Of course, it goes through about 305 miles of pipeline. That's what we have in the ground, ranging from 2-inch to 24-inch. We have a lot of plastic, a little bit of ductile iron. We're trying to get rid of the steel and galvanized, and we have about 100 miles of the AC pipe still in the ground that we're working on. So, new water main construction is done by contractors. And no, this is not a California contractor. This was actually the end of Shattuck Lane when they originally constructed it. That's how much they raised the grade in that whole subdivision. So, hot taps are typically done on all the new mains, all new main connections, so that we never take a water main out of service if we can help it, because it creates a whole new set of problems we have to go through. We do routine water quality sampling on a monthly basis. We test 50 water quality samples a month, plus we test for 96 different contaminants on an annual basis. So,
Jerry, question on you test the pipe, the water running through a pipe
we
in
test the
different
water running
areas.
through the pipe.
Okay.
That's what these little stations are for. They're actually connected right directly to the main. Instead of having to go through a house to test them, we pull water directly off of that main. It makes it a lot more efficient for us. We have about 47 of these stations around the city right now, and we're adding more with each new subdivision. We put service lines in from the mains to the houses and the office buildings to get the water from the mains to the buildings. 1-inch and 2-inch lines we can actually do with trenchless technology, so we can actually punch a water line under a street without having to do too much damage to it at all. Anything 3-inch and larger has to be open trench at this point. There is technology to do larger. We did try a 6-inch fire line underneath of Northwest Boulevard, but it's still a little problematic to deal with. You have to know exactly what you're doing because of the type of pipe that has to go in. So that's what we're looking at in the future. New services are hot tapped on the mains, and then we install meter boxes or vaults depending on the size of the service at the property line. So here you can see this is a typical residential unit with a small meter box. This is actually at Oakcrest. This is an 8-inch water meter. So, we utilize water meters to track the customer usage. And this was the old style mechanical register, and so they had a little bit of a leak dial there, and that was about the extent of the technology there. These are the new electronics, and they can record a leak down to a 1/4 gallon per minute, and even tell if the meter's running backwards. They'll tell us that, and even if the thing's been tampered with. So they have a lot of technology available there. The nice thing about these old ones, we had to buy individual heads for each size of meter. This is one size fits all. It's just programmable. So it makes it a lot more efficient for us. Here's an example of what a service looks like. So you've got a copper setter, meter, and then your customer service line. We do routine meter maintenance. The battery life on our radio reads is about 10 years. So we're already past the first set when we originally installed these, so we're doing about 2,000 meters a year. We have challenges with confined spaces where you have the larger meter vaults. This one here, actually Kevin was changing that meter and the thing blew apart on him.
Oh, God.
He had to get out of that vault before it flooded, so it could be a bit of a challenge. And we replace about 2,000 meters on an annual basis. We're just wrapping up on this year's. And sometimes it's a little difficult to find. Idaho Water used to put these things everywhere. They never put them in a sensible place, so they can be difficult to locate sometimes. And unfortunately, the meters and the meter boxes are very ugly, so the customers often try to camouflage them or hide them. So here you have a half a meter sticking out of a meter basement wall. Here's a buried meter box under about 6 inches of bark. And of course, you can see the gentleman in through the bushes there. So, and occasionally you get a customer that wants to take a peek and see what you're doing. And of course, some of these are a little bit deep, so the guys really have to get into working on them. So, We do fire hydrant maintenance on an annual basis. We do about 400 of our nearly 3,000 fire hydrants. This one, the customer decided they didn't like the looks of the yellow fire hydrant, so they painted it with automotive paint. Guys had to go out, wire brush that thing down to the original paint and recoat it. You notice the green caps on those? Anybody know what that's for? That denotes the pressure flow of that hydrant. So there's green, red, and yellow, and orange, and so we paint those caps. When the fire department pulls up, they know the pressure range or flow range of those fire hydrants. So it makes a nice, neat little code for them.
What are the, do you know it off the top of your head? So
I
red
don't
would
know
be the
what they are
highest
right off the top
pressure?
of my head.
Okay,
I know
all right.
that the green is usually 1,000 to 1,500,
Okay.
and a pressure range of 50 to 65 PSI. So
Wow.
Are fire hydrants always the same size, so much, the pipe is so big and so much flow, or is that why you?
typically, yes, they're designed as a 5.5-inch barrel to flow up to 3,500 gallons per minute. It depends on the main that feeds them.
Gotcha.
And we have to repair the fire hydrants. We typically see around 2 dozen. They get hit, especially around this time of year when the snow's out and people slide around. These are designed to break away at the ground level. It's called a traffic flange on those, so that they don't do as much damage and they don't, like in the movies, you see the water start shooting up. That doesn't happen. These are designed to break in the off position. And even the ones down south that are fully charged all the time, they're designed to break in the off position. They actually have a flapper. So really, that's just a movie effect. It doesn't really happen that way.
That is so disappointing.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're not. And then sometimes we have some of the older hydrants get hit and we don't have parts to replace them anymore or repair them. So we go out and replace them with the updated style fire hydrants. So.
Terry, on regards to fire hydrants, you guys do all that
Yes.
from internal in the
Yes.
23 guys. So when they're not changing pipes and doing all that, what in the winter are you guys, are
I'll
you
get to
still
that.
out there digging? Oh,
I'll
you
get to
are.
that in just a
Okay,
minute.
sorry.
I'll show you some of the stuff we're doing in the wintertime.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in fact, here it is. Valve exercising. This time of year is when we start that. We have over 12,000 valves in the system, and we're supposed to, by DEQ standard, go out and exercise those on an annual basis. So we have put together this unit that actually has a vacuum on it to clean out the valve boxes, and a hydraulic valve exerciser that reaches out and and about 20 feet from that vehicle can get remote valves if we need to exercise them on fire hydrants, mains, intersections, and everything.
Wow.
Plus, it has a GPS system that attaches to it, so we can record that on our GPS maps.
Nice.
So it tells us what size that valve is, how many turns, condition of it, and location. So we can find them a lot easier. So,
That's awesome.
and this is a unit that I'll tell you a little bit about just a little bit later. So, cross-connection control is one of our very important programs to protect public health. But it's also a very unpopular program with the public because they own the devices, they have to test them, but we monitor it. And so here you can see one being replaced. Occasionally you open up a box and you get a little surprise. So,
Is that here?
yeah.
Oh,
But you can find these things tucked under a counter. This one's on a coffee machine in a coffee shop, and it's actually hooked up backwards. You have a little
fine,
trouble.
right?
This one's up in the ceiling, so you have trouble getting your kid up there to test them. So you find all kinds of things. Right now, we're approaching the 12,000 device mark.
Wow.
What we're monitoring on an annual basis. That is equivalent to what Spokane does, and they have 4 times the connections we do.
Wow.
So.
Terry,
Yes.
on this, is this the same as the backflow
This is
valve?
the backflow,
So
yes.
it's the
Yep.
same,
Same thing.
different verbiage, backflow
Yep.
permit is what we're
So
talking about?
when you hear backflow, it's actually cross-connection control is
Okay.
the proper nomenclature for it. But yes, this is our backflow program.
And that's what people have to pay to have inspected
Yep.
every year?
On an
and that's
annual
the-
basis,
okay.
yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that the meters can run backwards.
Occasionally, yes, so that's backflow.
Yeah, and that would be backflow, but
Yes.
why not have the meter also be kind of a backflow thing, or is that just too
They
complicated?
they do have that. They're not fully approved yet.
Okay.
But they do have some of those systems set up there. On our copper setters that you saw earlier, actually has what's called a dual check, so it prevents that for the most part.
Okay.
That's on the newer ones. The older ones out there still don't have that.
Okay.
But we're trying to get those all updated as we can afford and get time to do.
Very
So
good.
those do have some modification of backflow protection, so. Our guys do new infrastructure construction or inspections, so when there's the contractors coming in and doing construction, we're out there making sure they're doing it to our standards. Plus, we're also taking our own shots on those valves and fittings and putting that directly on our map. Working with Debbie Frisbee, we can now actually shoot that on site, take pictures of it, upload it immediately. Within 10 minutes, it's on our map. So we can look at it from the office and see daily progress in what they're doing. So, pretty neat system. Occasionally, Mother Nature decides to lend us a hand.
Yeah.
So, when you get these torrential rainfalls, water leaks just seem to pop up in the street all over the place. People don't realize it's the storm drains backing up and flowing out. But we get the calls. And then last year, about July 2nd, we took a lightning hit at the Ramsey site, took out our entire system. There is a YouTube video on the website, or on the web, that you can actually watch this water cascading over the side of that tank. Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody got a picture of, or a video of it. So
And why did that happen?
the control system went down and the pumps just kept running and they didn't have any level control. The SCADA was down.
So this is overflow.
It was overflowing,
Okay.
yes. So.
Well, that's actually kind of lovely. We should probably do that for like 4th of July or something.
Pretty easy to do, really. So, eventually, all infrastructure fails. This is a huge problem plaguing the nation, and we're trying to do our best to keep ahead of it a little bit. So we have a main and service replacement program in place that we do on an annual basis. But we still have to deal with these leaks. And unfortunately, Idaho Water didn't like to put water mains under the street, where it's a little easier to control. They put them here along the rights of ways, and here we had to take out shrubs and everything been planted over the top of it. We hate to do that, that's why we don't allow that any longer. But this is over on Blackwell Island. This is actually the 12-inch that feeds Blackwell Island there at the marina. A couple of winters ago, it broke right there. We had to go out and fix it. So, and as I mentioned, they don't like to put them in streets, so here's one down over a 10-foot bank. We had to lower the backhoe down over the bankment to get to the leak and then pull it back out with the loaders. March of 2012, there was a 3-foot section of wooden water main that nobody knew was there, and it blew out. On a very snowy morning, we were getting ready to start a major project, and it took out a block of Dollar Street and washed sand and cleared down into Jerry Jager's driveway. So
3-foot wood.
a 3-foot section of wood water main that somebody had forgotten about decades ago, and the banding all disintegrated and it just blew apart.
So,
And it washed out this road all the way down to the next intersection.
so we probably don't know whether there's still wooden pipes.
We hope not. We thought we had the last one out in 2004, but that one popped up, so who knows what else is out
Wow.
there to rear its ugly head.
It's pretty amazing that it's lasted this long. You think
Yeah.
about it. That's
It's probably been in there close to 100 years.
Yeah.
So,
It's crazy.
yeah. So. Here, our crew does the water infrastructure replacement. We do have farm out some of the projects, but most of them we do in-house. And the problem with that is we run into a lot of buried underground utilities that some are known, some are not known. So we're always fighting that to get this stuff in the ground. Makes it a lot more complicated. And sometimes you run into stuff you never even thought was there. This is a 4-inch water main that was installed by Idaho Water. And why they didn't tap it directly to the main, they used 4 1-inch service lines to cross across to hook it. 1-inch service lines don't equate to a 4-inch line, but that's something we found. You're wondering, what were they thinking?
They ran out of 4-inch, right?
Yeah, I guess, something there. And then, or they couldn't find a saddle or a tee to put in there. And then this was a irrigation hookup that a plumber had put in the meter box. So
Oh,
that
really?
was quite unique.
Pretty creative, huh?
Yeah. Took a lot of work to get that plumbed in there.
Like
so.
art.
Yeah. We do rehabs on our wells on an annual basis, and some of those wells had not been on the ground in 20 years, as you can see from the condition of this suction strainer. It takes a lot of specialized knowledge and some pretty heavy equipment to get the things out of the ground. Those things weigh 27,000 pounds with the water in them, so it takes a pretty good-sized crane to get them out. Those motors are 800 pounds apiece, so
We don't have any more submerged motors, do we?
No.
Good.
no, we've done away with those. We do routine maintenance of storage. This one was the Bastille standpipe. The last time we drained it down and cleaned it, we now utilize ORVs, remote vehicles. And they can actually go in, they can vacuum, they have scrub brushes, they can actually check the coatings on the inside of the pipe. They have cameras, so we can check the structure. Makes it a whole lot easier. Plus, the tank can remain in service rather than having to drain it down. And we still definitely had to do that for our standpipes because they're 160 feet tall, so you couldn't get a diver in there anyway unless you brought them down halfway. So
it's actually cleaned with the water in it?
yes, it's clean with the water in it. They have a vacuum, underwater vacuum that goes in there and can clean them out. Our tanks and our water quality is so good that we've had very little trouble with that. We did last summer we did the tank at Armstrong. It hadn't been done since 1989, and there was an inch of silt in there, and that was it. Wow. And that's amazing. Most places get 3 to 4 inches of silt in 5 years. So we are very lucky with the water quality we have. So, in the wintertime, we do our own fleet modifications. This is that unit I was just showing you that does the valve exercising. Our crew built that. Actually designed it and built it. The manufacturer that sold us the equipment now has that as one of their options. They can build a similar unit. So we're pretty proud of that. And we've taken the old Big Blue and recycled it, turned it into a hydro excavator. This is one of our key pieces of equipment now because we can dig around utilities without the use of a backhoe and prevent damage. Sweet. And so it's very instrumental in doing that, and it works very, very well. We do a lot of training with our operators' licenses. We have to have a minimum of 0.6 CEUs per year, continuing education units. So we attend classes. This was the service truck rodeo in Spokane. This is that same unit. We're showing it off to other operators in the area. They were very interested in it. This has a removable bed system called a switch and go. This one was the first one in this area. When I was building the truck, I ran across it back east and got a hold of it, brought it over here, we set it up. We have 5 interchangeable beds with that one truck. So that one truck can do 5 different jobs. And now Solid Waste Systems Spokane picked up that unit and they sell it locally. So, nice. Here's fire hydrant maintenance. We brought in a fire hydrant distributor, and he came in and we offered a class to some of our neighbors and put it on in our shop over there. So. Nice. Once in a while, we get to showcase our abilities. So this was a cat rodeo back in 2011, and we get to go out and compete with neighboring operators and show them what we have capabilities of doing. So this one, we're taking volleyballs off the top of a cone and dropping it into a standard garbage can.
Really?
Wow.
This one, you're taking and stacking 5 tires, had to be standing straight up. This one, we had to knock tennis balls off the top of the cones without knocking the cones over.
Wow.
And this one, you had to back that truck and trailer 100 yards through a series of 3 cones.
Really?
I did that in 32 seconds. One of my operators did it in 25.
Nice.
Would this be on ESPN 8?
No, not usually, unfortunately.
All right.
It'd be interesting watching some of the people, though.
Okay.
Fun.
So, some of our recent accomplishments, of course, our Best Hill Booster Station in 2017. The initial bid was way beyond our budget. So our guys went out and put in all of the piping and saved us about $275,000 on the next bid. The contractors had to come in and build a building around it and put in the inner controls and stuff and the pump. So that saved a lot of money. Unfortunately, with the timing, we had to do this in the middle of January.
Yeah.
So it was cold, everything was freezing and snowing, but the guys were troopers and got it all done and did an excellent job. The contractors were extremely impressed. The Hutter well was drilled down to 363 feet this spring, test pumped at 4,200 GPM with good water quality, and we're now working on the design for the new well house. So,
Terry, in
Yes.
regards to, we've tried holes in different places and
Yes.
too much sand or not enough
sand
water.
or arsenic. Arsenic's been our biggest enemy.
Plumes.
So, yeah.
This one we lucked out? Is
Yeah, we
that
lucked
how
out
you
on
look
this
at it?
one. It came out very clean. Arsenic was at 2.5, the limit's 10. The only problem we have with this one right now is somebody knocked the cap loose and dumped some wood and rock in the bottom of it. So we've got a contractor, the contractor drilled it's going to come back next month and clean it out for us. But we've took water quality samples, everything came back good. So.
Is 363 the norm, about the average?
About right, yep. Yep, about 350 to 370 is about average, so We hit water level about 260. We need enough depth to be able to draw the 4,000 GPM that we want, so.
Wow.
We're blessed, aren't we?
Yep, we are. This is one of the best aquifers in the United States, so. We did the Fernan Hill 12-inch transmission main last summer as well. That was a bit of a challenge with the proximity of all the utilities in Boyd Avenue and Hedberg, and we had an untried contractor that threw us some curveballs. This is actually my crew putting in a sleeve for them that they hadn't counted on doing, so. And of course, we appreciate what council allowed us to do. We got our new building built. And
So when are you
that's
going to
been
have the
done.
grand opening ceremony with cake?
We are still trying to figure out a way to do it safely.
Okay. All
That's
right, all
the
right.
I think
biggest
it's
issue.
cupcakes,
We've
and
had
it's one of us at a
some
time.
issues, so what I may end up doing is probably inviting you guys up a couple at a time on a schedule and do that way.
Thank you.
It's just been difficult to get done, so. I thought about maybe doing a filming of it and bringing it to council, but Troy has asked that we do it in person as much as possible.
Good,
so,
thank you.
yeah, so we'll make that happen. One of the things I wanted to point out is we have almost 118 million in asset values for the system. We have 0 debt service, and we haven't had debt service in the past 20 years, and we don't forecast any in the next 5.
Outstanding.
Upcoming projects, the Hutter Well construction, Trails transmission main should start in the middle of next month. We're still working on the design for the Atlas Centennial Trail transmission main. We have some issues with ITD and the Federal Highway Association on that one, or administration on that one, so we're working with them trying to smooth that out. The Blackwell transmission main will start in the next couple of weeks. That's over there on the other side. We're replacing the existing transmission main up the hillside in a different location. We were able to work out and get a new booster station site as well. We're still hunting for the Canfield and Fernan tank site locations. We think we've got the Canfield one nailed down. We're still looking for Fernan sites. And the Elm Street switchover, that's moving about 60 homes from the high zone there to the general zone to free up capacity in that system and on that tank. And we've got 50 of those homes already done. We've got to replace a main next summer, and then we'll get the last 10 done. And that should free up capacity in that tank, should move down the use there and make things a lot better for the folks in that area. So that's been a big plus, and I haven't had any calls last summer on that. So that was a real big deal. Thank you for joining us from the past superintendents and myself. Unfortunately, Ralph passed away this last year, and we're going to do a little tribute to him in the new department, so, because he was instrumental in getting this system up and running, and Jim was a big boon to it too, and we've tried to keep things going in a good, logical manner. Thank you.
Outstanding.
Any questions for Terry?
I just had 2 questions. I should have asked when we were on the page, but when you do the testing in all those sites and you add more sites, what exactly do you test for?
We test for the 96 constituents, we test for arsenic, we test for VOCs, which is organic chemicals. We test for pesticides, we test iron, water, salt, conductivity, bacteria, everything that can be a potential problem in that well.
So are there certain standards of things you have to test
Yes.
for at certain
Yeah.
limits? And how,
EPA has a set of standards that we have to test and meet, and we exceed all of those standards.
Nice.
okay. And that's a monthly process?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then the other thing is, when you had those meters, I'd given Mike Anderson quite a hard time about some irrigation separation, as you know.
Yep.
But walk me through, you showed the meters. If a person said, I had 3 people, and here's where this came from, a church, a realtor, and a lawyer's office, and they were all older homes.
Yep.
And so what happens is, the meter's set, the water comes in, and then in the summer, the irrigation gets turned on.
Yep.
And in the summer months, those 3 facilities are charged sewer rates for all the water that actually goes to irrigation.
Right.
So one of the only resolutions to keep them from paying hundreds of dollars a month for sewer treatment that they're really not putting into the sewer system is to get a separate meter.
Right.
How would that work when you're showing us the new meters that they're putting in? Would there be 2 meters there,
There'd
or
be
how
two
does that
two
work?
separate services. That's the problem with some of the smaller businesses, is it's about almost $7,000 to do a new meter set and pay the cap fees on it. So that's what you got to figure out what that payback is. Typically, if it's not less than 5 to 7 years, it's not really worth it. You're going to pay less sewer fees, and they're going to cost you to do that service. But it's recommended. Other places that I've seen look at wintertime usage and average that during the summer to see if that, and then they give a given rate on that. So there are other possibilities to help with that. It just depends on what the utility is willing to do. So,
Okay.
but for us, the larger places with the separate irrigation meter saves them thousands of dollars a month.
Right.
Yeah.
So of the $7,000 to put that in, how much of that is the cap fee, or is that?
Cap fee on a like a 3/4 inch service is $3,020. So it's about half of it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll probably bring that up again sometime. I
Yeah.
just have a feeling, so
Dan?
thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Woody. Terry, there's been issues in the past with pressure around the city, and I know you've made great strides toward evening that out. Pressure at my house is so good, I have to install a regulator. But are there still parts of the city that we're working on getting the pressure up to what it should be?
Yes, and it's Stanley and Fernand Hill is one of those
Oh,
where we
really?
did that
Okay.
transmission main. That's why we did it, because in that area, pressure in the summertime with high usage, people would be without water.
Okay.
That's what our goal is to get another tank over there and another booster station, but the transmission main was the key to getting that flow to where it needed to go.
But in the other parts of the city, there used to be a low pressure zone in the north.
Well, we call it the general zone. That's
Okay.
about, the city's about half, divided in half now.
Uh-huh. And so is it pretty much even? Because I know there used to be problems where you would say, it just doesn't make sense that,
Yep.
you know, it's all one system, but the pressure is
Yep.
different. Yeah.
So it's basically divided, and where we had historic problems in the past few years down around Appleway and Winco and stuff, we've actually taken that into, expanded the high zone to that point. So Appleway is almost our dividing line now for the city between the general zone or lower zone and the upper zone.
Okay.
So yeah, we've tried to expand that and take care of those as much as possible. And the reliability portion of it with the backup power has helped a lot of that too.
Yes, I do appreciate it. I think we have great water here. I think you guys do a great service. It's just, it's quite impressive. And the nice thing about it is you don't notice it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's when I think when government provides a service and it's not something people are complaining about all the time or anything, I mean, that's stellar. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Just a couple questions. Fluoride that comes around on us every once in a while. Where's the water department? How do you look at that kind of stuff?
I have worked in a system that put fluoride in the water in Cheney. And I do not want to ever have to do it again. It is a very time-consuming and very meticulous process and very controversial. The benefits of it, in my feeling is the benefits don't really necessarily outweigh the harmful portions of it, because you have fluoridated or fluoride toothpaste now that give you your daily consumption that you need. There's a feeling that the medical or the dental options aren't there for the children. In this community, I think they are. I don't think we really suffer from that bad. We have a mild amount of fluoride naturally in the water. Most every system does that uses groundwater. So we have about a 0.2 part per million fluoride capacity in the water as it is. So, but it's a large process. It has to be voted on by the people, and I've been through that. I was on the board in Spokane when they tried to do it 20 years ago, and my feeling is I'd rather not do it.
Okay. My last question, growth. You know, we talk about it and hear about growth and the impact on infrastructure. You guys are kind of in a different world. The growth within the city, and then you have old Idaho water.
Yep.
Do we know how many more, I call them we owe you, we owe you connections? Do you know if that will ever end, or does it?
Will it ever end? Eventually, yes.
Okay.
We have them cataloged.
They are.
Yeah, when we did the update to the policy, at that time we had 117 on the cataloged. I believe we're down to right around 110 now. We've put about that many in so far.
Okay. And that becomes one service. Somebody
Yes.
can't take a 5 acre and split it out and
Nope.
get 5 more.
That's
It's
one,
one
no,
service.
and if they want to do that, they have to annex.
Gotcha.
They have to become part of the city.
And you can't annex on the water line, right? it has to be contiguous?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Growth, you feel comfortable with the amount of water we're using? And
I'd like to reduce the amount of water we're using. In the wintertime, we use about 5 to 6 billion gallons per day. And in the summertime, we're up around 36 to 38 million gallons per day. 75% of that is irrigation. We love our green lawns, and I love my green lawn too. And our water rates are so affordable that it makes it practical for people to do that. But there's going to come a time when growth around the entire metropolitan area is going to be so great that we may harm our water flow or water capacity. So we have to consider what we can do with that. We need to take a look at our 10% open space requirement, or green space requirements, and see if we can do something to either use efficient irrigation systems or utilize a portion of that for water reducing or low water use landscaping, some xeriscaping. We've experimented with that. Out at the Atlas Park, they're trying a new white clover that takes about a fourth of the water that typical grass does. I haven't been out to see it yet. I want to go out and see that when it comes up and see what it looks like. We're looking at some of the swales on Ramsey that they do a lot of irrigation on, seeing if we can do something like that to reduce our water use out there. The city is the biggest water user in Coeur d'Alene, so we need to reduce that somehow. But we need to get everybody on board with conservation, and that's, with our rates, that's a difficult task.
Terry, weren't you on a board or some organization that dealt with the new technology and water conservation
Yes,
issues?
I'm president of Idaho-Washington
Okay.
Aquifer Collaborative, and we have been promoting efficient irrigation and low water use landscapes.
Good, so you're going to be able to continue to bring back the newest technology and things to our city. Good, thank you.
We actually implemented that at the water site. We have the efficient irrigation heads, so that you use a fourth of the water that the typical heads they were going to put in done, and we're looking at those at our well sites. So we're trying to do our part.
Well, we appreciate what you do. That was a great presentation, and we'd love to see the videos.
All right.
That
Yes.
would be fun.
Yeah, stop by, I'll show it to you.
Thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Nice presentation, thanks, Terry.
And with that, I'll look to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Aye,
Second. Aye.
we're out of sync.
We're done. Thanks, Jeff, for being here.
I just wanted to say it.
Yes.